This week's Torah portion is Parsha Vayakhel. Getting towards the end of Sefer Shmos, so we had Truma, Tetzava, half of Kisisa, Vayakhel, and Pekudei that are all dealing with different details of the building of the Mishkan and setting up for the service of the Mishkan. Something I've been thinking about, it's a new idea. Yesterday afternoon I started working on it. I think I still need a little bit more time to develop it. I'm just share the idea with you. Hopefully over the next couple of years we will get it to where I'm comfortable with the idea. But I want to just, I think it's a fascinating concept. It's more philosophical than practical. Usually I try to steer this in more of a practical direction. We'll see if we can make it practical as well. But the beginning of this week's Parsha begins with a focus on Shabbos. Which is interesting is that we've got 4.5 parshas, that the main thrust of the parsha has been the building of the Mishkan. From left field, we're throwing in Shabbos. Just an understanding, what is Shabbos doing, the mitzvah Shabbos doing in the building of the Mishkan? Why is that being brought in? And it's the way Rashi explains it. Rashi says Moshe gathered all of Bnei Yisrael together and he started teaching them Sheishes Yamim Tasem Meloch Te'asem Melocha. 6 days Melocha shall be done. It's interesting. Other places is you will do Melocha, your Melocha will be done. So the Talmud says that the two places reflect on God's relationship with the Jewish people. If we're doing what we do, others will do the work for us. If not, we're going to have to do the work ourselves. But here it says, God, the work will be done 6 days a week. On the 7th day will be for you Shabbos Kodesh, a day of rest. Anyone who does Malocha Yumas will be put to death. Lo sevara eish b'chol moshosechem yom HaShabbos. You should not kindle fire in any of your dwellings on the day of Shabbos. So the Talmud also deals with your 39 malachas, and you're popping in the middle fire. Why is that? What's that doing here? As a side point, I believe it's the Vilna Gaon. There's a big dispute between the Prushim, are the rabbis who believe in Torah Sinai and have the interpretations of the Torah as it was handed down in the Masorah, and then you have the Tzedukim that were very literal, took literal interpretation, and the Tzedukim says you can't have fire in your encampments on Shabbos, and they did not use any fire or heat over Shabbos. Whereas we know that's not the interpretation. You're not allowed to ignite or start a fire, but if something's been cooked from before, you can have it heated all the way through Shabbos. Something that was lit from before, you can have it. Just on the Shabbos, you can't light it, but it can be lit from before, which the custom throughout Klal Yisrael was one of the established takanot to show that the tzedukim were wrong, was the eating of cholent. Cholent is not, because that's a great thing to eat, Cholent actually by the Sephardic land is called chamin, right? It's hot food. In the Ashkenazi country, cholent, I think if I'm not mistaken, comes from the word caliente. Caliente in Spanish, in France, it's something mean hot, something that's hot. That's the word cholent, where it comes from. What was the idea? By eating hot food on Shabbos, you're showing that the Tzedukim were wrong, that their interpretations. It's actually, there's a special, it's not, you have to eat cholent on Shabbos. It's not just a part of that's the custom of what we eat, but there's halachas involved in terms of why we do it. But that's this pasuk. You should not have fire. Why specifically? That is singled out. But Rashi brings down here. Rashi says like this. Why is Shabbos being mentioned? Because it's being mentioned right before the instruction that Moshe is giving the people to build the Mishkan. Right? So we have to know the way. Things seem to be repeated over and over. But in last week's Parsha, in Kisisa, Hashem was telling Moshe the instructions. In this week's Parsha, Moshe is telling the people the instruction. So in this week's Parsha, what happens? Moshe tells them the laws of Shabbos, and then he tells them the laws of the Mishkan. Says Rashi, why are the laws of Shabbos brought before the laws of the Mishkan? Because you should know that although we need to build the Mishkan, and it's important to build the Mishkan, we should not violate the 39 melachos in building the Mishkan. In fact, the Gemara in Shabbos tells us that the 39 melachos were learned from the melachos of what it took to build the Mishkan, the type of activities that they did to build the Mishkan, since we were told not to do the melachos. So that defined for us what those 39 melachos were. Right? So it's interesting. So here it's written first, to keep Shabbos, and then it says build the Mishkan, and Rashi says to tell you that building the Mishkan does not override. So the Mizrahi, it's a very early Achron, he asks the question, is that like in last week's Parsha, it's exactly the opposite. The outcome's the same. But in last week's Parsha, you have all the building of the Mishkan, and then at the end of the Parsha, it throws you have to keep the Shabbos. And there also we learn out. Don't think because you want to finish doing the Mishkan, therefore you're allowed to violate the Shabbos. There's the word ach. It's a miyut telling you, no, you can't build the Mishkan on Shabbos. So he says, well, how does it work? Why over here is Shabbos first and then Mishkan? And then in last week's Parsha, it's Mishkan first and then Shabbos. Right? I guess also, why do you need twice? Well, the idea, we get the message. Don't build the Mishkan on Shabbos. We get it. As important as the Mishkan is, it doesn't override Shabbos. Right? So there's a lot of discussion on that question of the Mizrahi. I thought I'd come up with a new idea today, perhaps why there it is Shabbos then Mishkan, and here it's Mishkan and then Shabbos. And why do we need it twice? I haven't seen anyone discuss why it has to be written twice. What's the purpose of having this message? Actually, Shabbos is mentioned about 6-7 times in the Torah. We had it at Morah, we had it in Bereshis, but in these two connected to the Mishkan, as my original question is, what is the connection between Mishkan and Shabbos? Why is there this focus on this preoccupation with Shabbos when it comes to Mishkan? I saw the Gur Aryeh, the Maharal, actually, he doesn't ask the question, he sets it up as part of understanding. Why do we need to be told that you can't violate the Shabbos when you build the Mishkan? He says, because we know that actually when the Mishkan was already up, and the Beis HaMikdash, the Mishkan is the precursor to the Beis HaMikdash, when the Beis HaMikdash was built, they actually did do Melacha on Shabbos. The Karbanos, they brought them on Shabbos. They slaughtered the animals. They burnt them on the Mizbeach. So therefore, you might have thought perhaps, that's what he says, you might have thought since you're allowed to violate the Shabbos in the service of the Mishkan, then you might have thought that you should also be allowed to violate the Shabbos in the building of the Mishkan. So therefore, you can't violate the Shabbos of building the Mishkan. But the question is, so then why? What's the difference? If Mishkan is so important that you can violate the Shabbos, you can in the Mishkan, so why the building of the Mishkan doesn't violate the Shabbos? He's saying, explain why you need to teach me that. Then what's the message? Why is there a difference? Right? So very difficult. I'm trying to. I think I might have a solution. We'll see if it works. This is going to need a little bit of Tfilos Haderech for this one. But the so the questions we're asking, these are questions that the commentaries ask. Why is it say here Shabbos then Mishkan? And from there we learn, don't violate the Shabbos to build a Mishkan. Whereas in Kisisa, when God's instructing Moshe, it says Mishkan, and then it says Shabbos, and we learn out the same message. Why do we need that message twice? It's being recorded twice. What's the connection between Mishkan and Shabbos in general? Why is this a preoccupation, Shabbos connected to Mishkan? And then the last question we asked is that why actually is there that discrepancy in terms of, yes, you can do malacha in the service of the Mishkan on Shabbos, yet you can't build the Mishkan, which is for the service, that you can't do. Why is that? In Sefer Bereshis in Parshas Noach, when Noach comes out of the Teva, when he comes out of the ark, God makes a covenant with him, promising him that this will never happen again with mankind. And God says to him that although while they were in the Teva, when they were in the ark, then everything stopped functioning. The luminaries, the sun, the moon, the seasons, everything was, for a year, was put on hold. And God said, that's not going to happen again. I will continuous all the days of the earth, seed time, harvest time, cold, heat, summer, winter, day, night, lo yishbosu. What does lo yishbosu mean? They will never cease. They will not cease. Okay. Comes the Gemara in Masechah Sanhedrin and says, Yom v'layla lo yishbosu. This is instruction. This is what God, it seems to be a promise. I mean, God is promising this, right? Talmud takes it very literally, that God is telling Noach, Yom v'layla lo yishbosu. Day and night they shall not cease. From here we learn that a ben Noach that keeps the Sabbath is chayav misa. It's a capital offense. Right? From this verse, Yom v'layla lo yishbosu, that the simple reading is that the day and the night, everything that God created will continue to function. It won't stop. Day and night, lo yishbosu, means daytime and nighttime, the sun, the moon, everything's going to function, unlike the year we just had. Comes along with Talmud and says, from here you see that Goy Shavas, that a Ben Noach Shavas is Chayav Misa. You can't keep Shabbos. I know that people going through conversion process that I speak to, one of the most difficult things to do, because they feel that connection, but they haven't finalized, they are required to do Melacha on Shabbos. The one thing they have to do, they have to flip a switch, they have to do something, because it hasn't been completed yet, and a Ben Noach is not allowed to keep Shabbos. Fascinating thing, right? The Rambam says that a non-Jew can keep any mitzvah he wants. If he wants to feel closer, greater connection, he doesn't get the reward of someone who's obligated, but he at least gets the reward of someone who's not obligated and decides to do it. The one thing he can't do, he's not allowed to study Torah, certain times, and he's not allowed to keep Shabbos. Why? Why is Shabbos so? Shabbos is such a thing that it comes out fascinating. Is that a Jew who doesn't keep the Shabbos, that's a capital offense. The non-Jew who keeps the Shabbos, that's a capital offense. It's an interesting contrast, right? But why? Why is it that that's the one mitzvah that we don't let Ben Noach keep? They can keep. He can put on tefillin. He can put on tefillin if he wants. Right? Not recommended, but we're not going to stop him. Right? I remember I was in Miami, there was a fellow who come into shul, and it was clearly, you speak to him, he wasn't Jewish, and he had tefillin. And he said that he bought them in New York, and I saw written on the bag of the tefillin, the owner, the person who sold it to him, had written, Goy echad ba'aretz. It's a verse. It's one nation in the land. It's actually a praise of the Jewish people. If the guy had written that on the thing, he wanted people to realize that Goy echad ba'aretz he had written on there. But he wants to wear tefillin, let him wear tefillin. It's not Shabbos you can't keep. So one is, why is that? What's unique about Shabbos they can't keep? And how do you see from this verse? The verse is from left field. The verse is giving a promise that God is telling Noah, everything in creation is going to function from now on the way it's supposed to function. Nothing is going to cease. So I'll share an idea I heard from my own Shiva. I think it's a fascinating idea. And it'll help us understand certain concepts in halacha. Just one last question before I get to that. One last question. Last week's parsha we had the egel, the sin of the golden calf. Right? Chazal view it as this wedding. Har Sinai is this wedding. There's a chuppah. The mountain over the head is viewed as a chuppah. And it says, and they go off and they do the golden calf. The way Chazal turn is like kala shezinsa mitochu pasa. That under the chuppah, the kala was promiscuous. She committed an act of infidelity. Kala shezinsa mitochu pasa. It's under the... Rashi brings down, why did Klal Yisrael, what happened? How did they do this? They Har Sinai, and all of a sudden, 40 days later, he says there was a miscalculation. They counted incorrectly. Moshe said he's going up to get the luchos. He's going to be up for 40 days. Right? He went up during the day. We know in halacha you count night day is one day. He went up during the day, so they shouldn't have counted the first day. So when they counted 40 days later, that first day shouldn't have been counted. He's not here. They need Moshe. We can get into another time why they needed Moshe and what the purpose of that needed, that connection, that tangible feeling. They needed something to substitute. They came up with the egel, the golden calf. That's the interesting. Just like, what's the mistake there? And why do we need to know that's even the mistake? We don't things that are not important. We don't know. The mistake was they counted incorrectly. How does the counting incorrectly have anything to do with the mistake that they made? That was something I was trying to figure out. Let me tell you the idea that I heard from my Rosh Yeshiva. I think it's a brilliant idea. We find that in halacha specifically, we count Vayerev Vayvoker Yom Echad. Night comes before day. It makes things very confusing. You're trying to figure out a bar mitzvah. Because you have to realize, what's the date? Is that the night before? Is it the next day? Because halacha, the day starts at night. Why? Why in halacha does the day start at night? The Noachide laws, under Noachide laws, everything starts day-night, not night-day. Right? So why is it that we started doing it different? And the Mefarshim say it started at Har Sinai. Har Sinai when it starts night-day. What's the connection? In fact, there's the commentary, I believe, it's one of the Achronim, I don't remember. One of the Achronim explains, because it says that Avram Avinu kept all the mitzvos before the Torah was given. So he asked, how could he keep Shabbos? Ben Noach's not allowed to keep Shabbos. He says he kept it, but he was following the day-night system of Ben Noach. So he kept it, but it wasn't considered to be a problem, because the night, Friday night, it was Friday by him, not Shabbos. So he didn't keep it on Friday night. He kept it on Shabbos day, Friday. So therefore, that's one of the answers. Because before Matan Torah, we kept day night. We didn't keep it night day. Comes Matan Torah, it switches halachically. We go night day. Why? So Shlomo Melech says, Mesuka shinas ha'oved, that sweet is the sleep of the worker. The servant sleeps sweetly. What does that mean? Because if you own a business, all right, if you own a business, you don't sleep well. Right? You can't wake up the next morning, time to open up. You're up all night making sure that everything's going to be ready by the next time or the next morning. Right? If you're just a worker, then things go great. There's no problems. But if you have to, it's not just clocking in, clocking out. If you're an owner, God gave mankind 7 mitzvahs, the Noahide laws. It's starting from Adam all the way through Noah. They had the 7. What are the Noahide laws? You go through them. The Noahide laws are that man works for society to ensure that society is going to be the societal laws. These are the laws you have to keep to make sure the world will not implode. So all of the 7 laws are for a purpose. Man is a servant. Man is the worker. Everything has a function. There's the sun, there's the moon, there's the animals, everything has a function. Man has a function too. Man has to make sure you keep the 7 Noahide laws, that there will not be, that the world will be functional. And that's the 7 laws. Comes Har Sinai, God offers the Torah. From 7, now there's 613. 613 is not just a change in numbers, just not just another 606 mitzvot. That's not what it is. It's a different relationship. God is looking for a partner. Who's going to partner with me to run the world? Who's going to become my shutaf in Maaseh Breshit? Who's going to help me in my... the nations of the world turn it down. We've spoken about this a number of times. The things they turn down, right? Don't steal, don't kill, don't... Those are things they're obligated in anyway, so it's not the reason to turn them down. No, but it's different if you're just having to do it as a worker, or now you're having to take responsibility in terms of a partner. They don't want to sleep good. They don't want to... Klal Yisrael accept the Torah, which the world required. God was looking for a partner, right? It says at the end of Bereshis, it says, Yom HaShishi. Yom HaShishi. Rashi says, why does it say HaShishi? Because the world was not completed until the 6th of Sivan. What happened on the 6th of Sivan? When we accept the Torah. You need that partnership to be created. God wants his partners. Accepting the Torah, 613 mitzvahs, is not just I'm a worker anymore. I'm not a worker. I'm not just an eved. I'm a shutaf. I'm become a partner. Partner's days start at night. If you're a partner, your day is not the day. It's not morning, night. You're a partner now at the Har Sinai. We are now responsible. We have to plan for the next day. You don't just clock in, clock out. Ben Noach, your day, night. If you're a partner, your day starts at night. That's why the halachas start night day. That's the idea why we do it. That's this system that's worked out over there. Okay? At Har Sinai, God wants partners. Right? Who's going to stand up and be my partner? What happens is the Jewish people get cold feet. Right? They don't want that responsibility. They didn't want to hear directly from God anymore. Moshe, you do it. Right? They're backing down. That's why they made the mistake. How did they count the 40 days? They count day, night. Then Noach. That's what they're counting. They're counting that the counting is reflective of the problem. The problem is they don't want that awesome responsibility of taking on the partnership. That's why they made the mistake. They counted 40 days. They counted night, day. They didn't count day, night. That's the mistake. That's the connection that happens over there. Okay. Which, by the way, that's the shot in Parshas Noach. In Parshas Noach, it says Yom v'layla lo yishbosu, day and night. It says night and day. It doesn't say night and day won't cease. Day, night, because referring to the way things have to function. Mankind, Noah, are part of things that you have to function. You have to work. Shabbos is only given to who? To the partners. Shabbos is not, you're a worker, you don't get to take off. Yeah, we give vacations, but vacations aren't because of taking vacation. Vacations are because we need to make sure you're not going to get wiped out, right? That's just to produce productivity. Only a partner takes a vacation to reflect on what he did. Shabbos is reflecting on what I've done for the 6 days of the week. That's not for productivity. That's to reflect and show that this is what I did. 6 days, now I'm great. That only is given to Shabbos, to Bnei Yisrael. So a Jew now who wants to back out from being a partner, he's Chayav Misa. The non-Jew who wants to become the partner, you blew it. You can't be the partner. That's Chav Misa. Therefore, they tie together in terms of what Shabbos means to the Jewish people. That's the idea. And it's only for Jews. This is not something that anybody else, because it was a specific, unique relationship that was given to the Jews. That's the idea of what Shabbos, the importance of Shabbos. Let's go to the next step here. Har Sinai was supposed to be the creation of that partnership. We messed it up. What did we do? The Chet Hegel. Says the Ramban, Nachmanides says, that the Mishkan is the tikkun, is the fixing of the sin of the Egel. The Mishkan is the fixing of it. It allows us to get back to our status. And he says that the building of the Mishkan is a creation of the Sinaitic experience. The Ramban says, when you build the Mishkan, you are now recreating the Sinaitic experience. So that's fixing for us what we should have been, the level we should have been at Har Sinai, that we blew because we did the sin of the Egel, that is now being fixed by the Mishkan. Which, by the way, right? And what does that level, what reflects that level? What mitzvah in the Torah shows us that we're partners? Which is the one out of the 613 that shows that we're partners? Shabbos. That's why Shabbos is so connected to Mishkan. Because Mishkan puts us back on the status, correcting the sin of the Egel, puts us back on that status, and therefore, so now we understand, you might have thought, right, that you can violate the Shabbos to build the Mishkan. You can't. No, you can't. You first have to have that Mishkan. You have to repair the relationship. Right? You don't have a right to violate the Shabbos. Right? You might think that you're able to. You should be able to keep the Shabbos. I mean, no, you have to build a Mishkan without violating the Shabbos. So now let's understand this for a moment. There's one area in halacha that we actually do go day-night and not night-day. Anybody know where it is? Where does halacha follow that it's day and night is one unit, not night-day? Does anybody know where that is? That is by the korbanot. In the Beis HaMikdash, the korbanot, it's day-night. The eating of the korbanot, it's the bringing of the korbanot, it's day-night. Very interesting. Why should that be? Right? Because although we have a partnership with God, right? We're shutfim. Somebody says Vayakhulu, the Gemara says you become shutaf for the Kodesh Baruch Hu in Ma'aseh Bereshis. You become a partner in the creation of the world. Right? There's one place that we're still avadim. We're still considered servants. We're the avoda. What's avoda? Avoda is the service in the Beis HaMikdash. When we do that, we're considered eved. That relationship is still eved. Since that relationship was still eved, that doesn't go night-day. That goes day-night. Which is, by the way, tefillah is called avoda. If you open up any Orthodox siddur, where does it start? What tefillah? Start Ma'ariv. Why start on Shachris? Why start on Ma'ariv? Shachris. It should be Shachris. No. Avoda, first thing of the day is Shachris. The beginning day, that's it. That's the service. Service, when you're an Eved is Shachris. So in the Beis HaMikdash, we are avodim. All right? That's in the service. That's where an avodim. The building is the partnership. The building of the Mishkan is the partnership. The service, we're avodim. Therefore, in the building of the Beis HaMikdash, we don't violate the Shabbos. In the service of the Beis HaMikdash, I recommend the buildings to reinstate our position as partners. That's reinstate the fact that we did the Chet HaEgel, which we should have been shutfim. So the building, to answer the question, building is different than service. Building, you have to keep Shabbos because building is part of your partnership with God. Service, you're avodim. Avodim, in the service, you don't keep the Shabbos. It's difference. That's the difference between the two. So, the last piece now. We know that Shabbos, we're relationship chas and kala, the chadodi. There's this relationship, there's this marriage. Shabbos is a marriage relationship. Right? In the pasuk that's in Bereshis that teaches us that we have to keep the Shabbos, very interesting. The pasuk says there, Vayichal Elokim bayom hashvi'i malach asher asah. And on the seventh day, God completed his work. Now, Rashi is bothered by it. He brings out a medrash. What do you mean on the seventh day he completed his work? You don't work on Shabbos. He completed his work on the sixth day. He didn't complete his work on the seventh day. So why does it say that he completed on the seventh day? It shouldn't say he completed on the seventh day. He completed on the sixth day. He relaxed. He didn't work on the seventh day. So the Rashi brings two pshatim. One is that the human being who sees somebody working does not have the discernment, can't tell that exact point between sixth day and seventh day. You can't tell. So in the human eye, it looks like he actually worked into the seventh day. He stopped on the seventh, he worked into the seventh, because the human being can't tell the difference. Really, he stopped right, God stopped right at the point. He stopped creating right at the point between the two, but in our eyes, it looks like Vayichal Bayom Hashvi. The other pshat Rashi brings down is that the act of creating Shabbos was an act of creation. Ma olam chaser, what was the world missing? Menucha. Ba Shabbos, ba menucha. That actually, Shabbos itself, the desisting from work, is a creation. That created the entity of Shabbos. It is a creation. So two answers as to why it says Vayichal Bayom Hashvi. One is it looked like he finished on Shabbos. He actually didn't. The other one is that he actually created the Shabbos. That's what was created. So I was thinking like this. What's the argument there? I mean, it's two pshatim. It's two perspectives. They're not arguing necessarily. What's the two perspectives? Why did God keep Shabbos? God has to rest. God doesn't get tired. So what is the idea that God kept Shabbos? What's the notion of keeping Shabbos? So it's two pshatim. One is he had to create the Shabbos. Why did he have to create the Shabbos? Because he wanted to gift the Shabbos. Who does he want to gift it to? The Jewish people. That's the Matana Tova. He wanted to create this entity of Shabbos because that is the gift he's going to give us to sanctify us, the elevation of that partnership of sanctification. So God the Shabbos itself is a creation. Ba Shabbos Ba Menucha means Vayichal B'Yom Hashvi. That is the one pshat. The other pshat is like this, is that God does not need to rest. But if you rest from something, what does it show you about the rest of the days of the week? If you rested on the seventh, that is a testimony that what? That you created the first six. Why are you resting? Means God's rest was not because he needed the rest, but God's rest is to emphasize that he created the six, which is therefore like this. So that's why we keep Shabbos. Why do we keep Shabbos? Right? We keep Shabbos because by us resting on Shabbos, it shows God rested on Shabbos. And by saying God rested on Shabbos, we're testifying that God created the world. So therefore, two different perspectives. Is it that God created this to give us a gift of Shabbos? Or are we keeping, and that's what he's giving us, this gift so we can elevate ourselves, become partners and celebrate and become sanctified? Or is it we're giving because we're testing that God created the world? The truth is both are true. But each one's looking at the other one from their perspective. Right? Everyone has to care about the other one's perspective. God, from his perspective, I need to create the Shabbos. I want to give this as a gift to the Jewish people. So from God's perspective this is my gift to them. From our perspective we're keeping the Shabbos because we want to show that by keeping the Shabbos, God is the creator of the world. So each one is concerned about the other party. Let's go now to Kisisa and Vayakhel. Kisisa, it's God speaking to Moshe. In Vayakhel, it's Moshe discussing it with the Jewish people. So what I wanted to suggest is as follows. God's focus is the Jewish people. So God is saying, I have a gift. This gift is for you. Right? You're my partners, I'm gifting. But in order to be the partners, what had to happen? The Mishkan has to be built. Because by building the Mishkan, we correct the sin of the golden calf. And then he's gifting us the Shabbos. So there, when God is speaking to Moshe, they first have to build a Mishkan. And Shabbos is mentioned afterwards. All right? Build a Mishkan. So therefore, and Shabbos is mentioned afterwards. Now, you might think, therefore, the building of the Mishkan can violate the Shabbos. There's a special drasha that no, when you're building the Mishkan, you can't violate the Shabbos. But the Shabbos is mentioned, the Mishkan is mentioned first, because from God's perspective, He wants us to get the Shabbos. The Mishkan has to be built for us to get the Shabbos. He wants to give that gift. That's what He's focused on. I want to give it to them. From our perspective, we want to do something for God. What do we do for God? We want to show He created the world. What do we do to show He created the world? We keep the Shabbos. So we're focused on keeping the Shabbos, and then Mishkan is mentioned afterwards. So from our perspective, we mention Shabbos first, and then Mishkan. And by God's perspective, He mentions the Mishkan first, and then He mentions the Shabbos. So just to wrap up, Shabbos is a very important piece of what we are unique as Jews. The idea of Shabbos is that we are partners with God in creation. That's a day. It's a night-day system. It's not a day-night system. We are His partners. We are God's partners. And that is something that was created at Har Sinai. We lost it because of the Chet HaEgel. We got it back from the building of the Mishkan. That's where it comes in. There's two aspects in keeping the Shabbos. One is it's attesting to God creating the world. If you keep the Shabbos because God kept the Shabbos, God doesn't have to rest. It shows that He did the first 6 days. You're attesting to Him creating the Shabbos. God rested for our sake because He wants to be able to give us something that will sanctify us, elevate us, and we can be partners with Him as well.